everybody, and welcome to another video from CJ's Drop on Life. I hope everybody out there today is doing great and they're all healthy and you're getting out in nature. Okay, a couple days ago I made a video about the boomer generation. Got a lot of feedback on it. A lot of people weren't happy with what I had to say. I don't know why. I was just talking my life as a child, but apparently it ruffled a lot of feathers. So I'm here to make another video on the different generations, okay? And my point of this is everybody has their own flaws in their generation. And I think what's happening is everybody's lumping people, their generations, everybody's the same in every generation. They're not. As you can see, these generations characterize how different generations are. But you can't lump everybody that's in that generation as being the same and has went through the same experiences, because that's not true. I know my generation, baby boomer generation, or they call them boomers, I didn't see a lot of what people were talking about. I came from a blue-collar family. Both my parents worked. You know, I got up in the morning, got myself ready for school, all that stuff, you know. And I had to work hard when I was younger, you know. So I don't see lumping people all into the same category as being a good idea. That's just like anything. You can't lump everybody in the same category as what they are, because it doesn't always hold true. So we're going to start out with the first generation, which is the silent generation. From 1928 to 1945, they were called the silent generation. Their key influence were the Great Depression, World War II, and early Cold War. Known for discipline, loyalty, respect, and authority, they grew up in an era of scarcity. So they had to be frugal and cautious with money. It wasn't readily available. It was very hard times during the war. Often value tradition and stability. Strength, work ethic, resilience, strong sense of duty. Challenges, sometimes slow to adapt to rapid culture and tech change. I'm going to call it tech change, but I can't say that word. So, you know, they were old-fashioned people. You know, they grew up in a time without money, different things and stuff like that. Some people were rich, some people were poor, some people were middle class. Can't lump them all into one. The baby boomers, 1946 to 1964. Okay, that's my group. I was barely a baby boomer. I was born in 63, so I'm barely making it by 8 months. Okay, so grew up during a time of economical growth and optimism. Often value hard work, ambition, and personal achievement. Strong consumer influence. Help shape modern advertising and media culture. Strength, resourceful, competitive, and goal-driven. Sometimes stereotyped as they're resistant to change, particularly with technology. I know as a kid I had a great time, but you know, when I got married, I was married and we had 4 kids. I worked, my wife didn't, she stayed home with the kids. You know, we didn't have a lot. I drove beater cars, and I worked 6 to 7 days a week, 10, 12 hours a day in a stinky, hot foundry. You know, so we didn't have a lot. We didn't grow up rich. I didn't grow up with prosperity. Maybe some rich kids did. Their daddies had stocks and stuff, and they had good jobs. I mean, back in the day, you had to where you could get sponsored for jobs by people that worked good jobs. That means you could get in the door and get an interview, which most times you wouldn't. But when I got out of high school in 82, there wasn't many jobs out there. It was very few and thin between. And you couldn't find a job. It was very, very hard. And most people in Michigan here, most people went to work in the automotive companies. That's mainly what it is. If you wanted to get into a good company, you had to be sponsored, like I said, by somebody that would sponsor you to get an interview. Otherwise, you didn't have that opportunity. Generation X, which my wife is. She's 7 years younger than myself, and she's from the Generation X group. And key influences: Cold War ends, rise of personal computers, MTV, 1980s and 90s cultural shifts. Their traits, often called the latchkey generation due to high rates of divorce or dual parents working. Independent, self-reliant, skeptical of authority. Bridge between analog and digital. Strengths, adaptability, adaptable, pragmatic, tech comfortable but not tech dependent. Challenges, sometimes overlooked in cultural conversations between boomers and millennials. So my wife's in that category. She has a hard time with computers. She's not very good. I, on the other hand, am older and I'm good with computers. So, but I don't spend all day on them either. I go outside and do things. I just can't sit on a computer all day. I'm not key to that. So, so that's Gen X. The millennials, 1981 to 1996. Key influences. Internet boom, 9/11, the Great Recession. Social media rise. Digital. They're in the digital, and for especially younger millennials. Value experience over possession and work-life balance over climbing the rigid corporate ladder. Often socially conscious and open to diversity. Tech savvy, collaborative, quick learners. Challenges, economical struggles from student debt and housing costs, sometimes labeled entitled by older generations. So here we go again. So by us older generations, we're looking at them as being entitled. And the younger generation is looking at us as having everything taken away from them by us, not having enough. We took everything, the boomers did. So if we could just quit calling each other names, that would be great, and to, accept that not everybody is that way. I don't accept that everybody is that way, So if we could all get along, it'd be great. But, I don't know if that's going to happen or not. It's windy here today. All right. Gen Z. 1997 to 2012. Key influences, smartphones from childhood, climate change activism, political polarization, COVID-19 pandemic. So they went through the COVID-19 pandemic, being shut in the house for a couple of years. I mean, it wasn't an easy thing, especially if their kids were going to school and they had friends in school and stuff to hang out with. You couldn't hang out with anybody. So this is why everybody got on their computers and they talked to each other through chat or texting or FaceTiming each other, whatever. They did that. And I think that's why they're dependent on it now for so much. They have true digital, social media, and online culture are integral. Value, authenticity, mental health awareness, and inclusivity. God, I cannot speak and I can't read today. I'm sorry, folks. Entrepreneurial and self-directed. Strength, highly adaptable, informed, globally connected. Challenges, high rates of anxiety and stress, consistent digital stimulation, which means they have to be on their computers, smartphones, whatever, all the time to be stimulated by the blue light that comes off, everything else that comes off that keeps you hypnotized to your screen. I am so glad, like I said, and I'm not bragging that I grew up in the time I did, because I would not want to be in that generation. I'm sorry, and I'm not grouping everybody to that, like I said. But if you are like that, you need to get away from your computers a little bit and enjoy life outside and get into nature and stuff and hiking and get in with friends outside, go to bonfires, do things like that. Because that is a real problem. And then it's Generation Alpha, which is Gen A. Born from 2013 to the mid-2020s. Key influences, AI, which is coming up big and strong right now. Automation, climate crisis awareness, post-pandemic world. Traits, will be the most technology immersed generation in history, which I agree with that. They're born into this. They know it from birth, it seems like. They're born and they know that they just born into it, and their mind's already set for it. Growing up with voice assistants, VR, and personal AI tools. Can attest to that. My grandson's 8 and he has a VR, and he's He loves playing his games on it, you know. Expected to be highly data literate and globally aware of early childhood, strengths, fast learners, and tech mastery. Challenges: risk of reduced face-to-face social skills and screen dependency, which I see some of that in Gen Z. You know, I still work a part-time job, draw Social Security for my age, and I have to work with sometimes a lot of some younger kids. They have a hard time communicating with people, and I think it's all from the digital. And I'm not grouping everybody in there. I've met some pretty sharp and snappy kids that are that age, and they know how to talk to people, and they're very good at it. But some of them that I encounter, not all, can't carry on a conversation without looking at their phone. And to me, that's rude. If you're trying to talk to somebody and you're looking at them, you should be off your phone and not trying to talk to that person. You're trying to talk to that person, not trying to talk to that person and hold a conversation with them. But a lot of them can't. Their attention span is less than a minute, less than 30 seconds a lot of times. And, you know, it's just the world we live in. They were used to that, just like I was used to in the baby boomer stage, being outside and playing all the time. We didn't have computers, so if we had computers, I'd probably be on them. I'd probably be in the Gen Z or whatever category, besides being in that. So everybody, every generation has their faults and weaknesses and strengths. And not everybody's lumped into these generations. Everybody's different. So what I'm trying to say is, I wasn't trying to bash anybody in the last video. You can keep on watching and thinking I was, or you can say that I was, but I really wasn't. I was really trying to get into my generation as a kid, not as an adult. As a kid, I had experiences that were fun. I can go into a lot of more things when I was a kid, what we used to do outside. And you might find them interesting. Maybe I'll share that for another time, though. But everybody has what they grew up in. And be proud of what you grew up in. Be proud of your generation. I'm proud of my generation. You have every right to be proud of your generation. So, I hope you understood that. And I hope you better understand where I'm coming from now. Okay? So, with that, thank you for watching all the way through. And peace. And talk to somebody next to you, no matter if they're old, young, or whatever, and say hi to them. It might make their whole day. Okay? Be nice to people. Be judgmental free. And carry on, people. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.